Welcome, everyone. Today, we are exploring the groundbreaking work of Daniel Kahneman, a pioneer in behavioral economics and winner of the 2002 Nobel Prize in Economics. His book, Thinking Fast and Slow, is dedicated to decoding the mechanics of human judgment. Kahneman's goal was to enrich our vocabulary for discussing the judgments and choices of others, specifically by identifying systematic errors known as biases. We will examine how these foundational psychological insights can be transformed into actionable strategies for business, policy, and personal decision-making. To understand judgment, we must meet the two agents of the mind, System 1 and System 2. System 1, the automatic hero, operates in milliseconds with zero to minimal effort. It handles tasks like reading angry facial expressions. However, it is vulnerable to systematic biases because it cannot be turned off. System 2, the lazy controller, is slow and sequential, requiring high cognitive strain to perform tasks like complex calculations. While System 2 is capable of doubt and logic, it is often lazy and frequently defaults to System 1's intuitive suggestions without checking them. A core concept in the book is WYSIATI, or what you see is all there is. System 1 is an associative machine that excels at constructing the most coherent story possible using only the facts currently at hand, while completely ignoring what it does not know. This creates a confidence by coherence effect. Our subjective confidence is driven by how well the story fits together, not by the quality of evidence. Consequently, we jump to conclusions and create a powerful illusion of validity, often overestimating our understanding of a complex world. To combat the dangers of WYSIATI and corporate groupthink, Kahneman suggests a practical tool called the Premortem. Before a major decision is finalized, a team should fast forward 1 year and imagine the plan was a complete disaster. Members then spend 5 to 10 minutes writing a brief history of why that disaster occurred. This exercise illuminates hidden threats and vulnerabilities that were previously outside the WYSIATI flashlight beam, allowing knowledgeable individuals to speak up without appearing disloyal to the team's mission. We often fall victim to the planning fallacy, which occurs when we adopt an inside view. This means we focus only on our specific case and best-case scenarios, leading to irrational perseverance. For example, a team might estimate 2 years for a project based on current progress, ignoring the reality of unpredictable vicissitudes. This glitch causes us to discard statistical data of similar failures because it conflicts with our direct optimistic experience. Executives often make decisions based on delusional optimism rather than a rational weighting of gains and losses. The cure for the planning fallacy is reference class forecasting, or taking the outside view. This involves 3 steps. First, identify an appropriate broad reference class for your project. Second, obtain historical statistics for that class, such as average cost overruns or failure percentages, and use this as your anchor. Finally, adjust that baseline only if you have specific reasons to believe your current case is significantly different. This method forces you to rely on a large database of real-world outcomes rather than personal intuition. We often trust expert clinical judgment based on complex interviews and personal statements. However, research shows that in low-validity environments, simple statistical algorithms routinely outperform the subjective impressions of trained professionals. Human evaluators are inconsistent and easily influenced by context, fatigue, or mood, a phenomenon Kahneman calls noise. Proof of this was shown in a review of 20 studies where formulas were more accurate than 11 out of 14 expert counselors in outcomes ranging from medical diagnosis to parole violations. To hire the best people, Kahneman advises using a disciplined hiring checklist. Start by selecting 6 independent traits essential for success, such as technical proficiency or reliability. Next, script standardized factual questions for each trait. Finally, score each response from 1 to 5 based on predefined criteria. The golden rule is to resist the urge to invent a holistic narrative. You should score the traits independently, add up the numbers, and hire the candidate with the highest total score, regardless of your gut feeling. Traditional economics assumes we are rational, but prospect theory proves otherwise. 2 core concepts define this. First, we evaluate outcomes relative to a reference point, such as our current wealth, rather than absolute states. Second, we suffer from loss aversion. The psychological pain of losing something is much steeper than the pleasure of gaining that same thing, typically by a ratio of 1.5 to 2.5. This explains why we often turn down favorable opportunities because the fear of loss looms larger than the hope of gain.
We can harness the fact that System 2 is lazy through choice architecture and nudging. Since deviating from a norm requires effort, making the desired choice the automatic default drastically increases participation without removing freedom. A famous example is opt-out versus opt-in for organ donation or retirement enrollment. Another application is the Save More Tomorrow plan, which defeats immediate loss aversion by having employees commit now to increasing their savings later, tied to future pay raises, turning a loss into a foregone gain.
Kahneman distinguishes between two selves, the experiencing self and the remembering self. The experiencing self lives in the present, asking, how does it hurt right now? The remembering self, however, is the one that keeps score and makes future choices. Crucially, the remembering self evaluates an entire episode solely by the peak-end rule, averaging the most intense moment and how the event finishes. It suffers from duration neglect, meaning the length of a painful or pleasurable experience is mathematically irrelevant to how we remember it. Because average moments are forgotten, businesses should engineer the memory of their customers. Strategy 1 is to disproportionately invest in the peak by creating one highly memorable, exceptional moment of delight rather than spreading resources evenly. Strategy 2 is to ruthlessly optimize the end. A bad ending ruins a good experience, but a good ending can rescue a bad one. For instance, adding a mildly uncomfortable but less painful final 3 minutes to a medical procedure makes patients remember the entire event much more fondly. In summary, we have a cognitive blueprint for better decisions. We must recognize System 1 glitches like WYSIATI, the inside view, and loss aversion. These lead to flawed strategies, blown budgets, and stalled negotiations. The solution is System 2 intervention. Use the Premortem to search for failure, reference class forecasting to anchor on data, and choice architecture to guide the mind's natural laziness. We cannot wire System 1 out of our brains, but by designing processes and checklists, we can protect our organizations from our own minds.